Let's dive into one of the most powerful and often invisible forces that shapes pretty much everything in our lives: herd mentality. I mean, it influences our finances, our politics, even the clothes we wear. Today, we're going to unpack this whole phenomenon, drawing from a really fascinating piece by the spiritual Sikh. So let's just jump right in with the big question from our source material. Are you a wolf or are you a sheep? Now, it sounds a little blunt, right? But it's actually a pretty profound way to frame the core tension of our social lives. A tension that, believe me, plays out inside every single one of us every single day. And this is that tension right here. On one side, we have this deep, fundamental need to belong. We are social creatures through and through. Our entire sense of self is literally built through our connections with other people. But on the other side, we've got this powerful drive to be unique, to be our authentic selves, to stand out from the crowd. This constant push and pull between fitting in and standing out is what our source calls the central drama of human existence. So in this first part, we're really going to dig into that paradox. What exactly is herd mentality? And why is this pull to conform so incredibly fundamental and so powerful in the human experience? Okay, so here's the textbook definition. It's our inclination to follow the majority. But pay close attention to that last part, the subordination of individual judgment. That's the real kicker. See, it's not just about agreeing with people. It's about consciously or unconsciously setting aside your own critical thinking because the group's consensus feels safer or just easier. But here's the thing. This isn't usually a rational choice we're making. As the source material explains, there are some very deep psychological and even biological reasons why conformity, well, why it actually feels good. And what's so wild about this is that most of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. This isn't playing out in our conscious, rational mind. Nope, it's happening at a much deeper, much more primal, neurochemical level. And this is basically how it works. When we go along with the group, our brain gives us a little treat. It releases oxytocin. You've probably heard of it as the love hormone. This creates what the source calls a bliss response, that warm, fuzzy feeling of safety and belonging. And just like any reward, our brain wants more of it. It can become a subtle but very real addiction. Our own biology is rewarding us for fitting in, which makes it that much harder to even think about standing apart. So, okay, if this is some ancient biological thing hardwired into us, what happens when you pour gasoline on that fire in the form of modern technology? Well, these old school tendencies get amplified in ways that are just staggering. Welcome to what we might call the digital stampede. Just think about this number for a second. Research from the University of Leeds discovered that it only takes a tiny minority, just 5%, to influence the direction of a whole crowd. 5%! That's all it takes. It's a shocking reminder of how easily the many can be led by the few, how easily a flock of sheep can be steered by just a handful of wolves. You see this play out so clearly in financial markets, which we like to think of as these temples of pure logic and reason. But come on, think about speculative bubbles or the whole GameStop frenzy or the 2008 crisis, which our source brilliantly calls a pathology of consensus. In these situations, emotional contagion completely steamrolls logic, and it leads to this really crucial, kind of scary insight. In many professional fields, it's actually safer to be wrong with the crowd than it is to be right all by yourself. And then, of course, there's social media. The source calls this the commodification of consensus, and that is spot on. The entire business model is engineered to exploit our herd psychology. You've got algorithms that manufacture consensus by showing you what's popular, and dopamine loops that get us addicted to the feedback. This leads to something called identity outsourcing, where we literally start to define who we are by the number of likes and shares we get. Our own identity becomes a product to be bought and sold. This same dynamic, this manufactured agreement, has an absolutely corrosive effect on our politics. Our political party becomes a mental shortcut for what to think. This agreement isn't just a difference of opinion anymore, it's viewed as a moral failing, as illegitimate. Simple questions of fact are no longer about data, they're about signaling which tribe you belong to. And this, as the source grimly points out, threatens the very idea of a shared reality. And this is where the herd instinct can get really, really dark. The article explains how group dynamics can literally transform us. As an individual sheep, a person might be civil and feel a sense of moral responsibility, but put them in a group and they can become an aggressive wolf. Why? because that feeling of personal responsibility just dissolves into the collective. Your own moral compass gets hijacked by the group's agenda. Okay, so that's the problem, right? We've got this powerful, ancient instinct, and it's being supercharged by our modern world. So what in the world do we do about it? Well, the path forward isn't about some simplistic rebellion. It's about something much more subtle: developing awareness. Now, this is such a crucial point that the source makes. There's a huge difference between true independence and just being a contrarian. See, a contrarian is just reacting. They look at what the majority is doing and just do the opposite, usually to get attention. They're still defined by the herd. True independence, on the other hand, is about disciplined, critical thought. It's about questioning the crowd, for sure, but it's also about having the courage to question your own motivations. And this quote just nails it. The goal isn't to become a hermit, to reject society and go live in a cave. The goal is to learn how to participate with awareness, to engage with the collective, but to do so while holding on to your own clear, independent judgment. So, this brings the question right back to us, to you. How susceptible are you, really, to these forces? It's a tough question to answer honestly, but it's probably one of the most important ones you can ask yourself. Let's just try a quick little self-test, using some prompts from the article. Think about these statements. The majority is always right? Or what about this one? If everyone does it, it can't be entirely wrong. Maybe this resonates. Going against the current is foolish. It's better to just go with the flow. Or how about, the opinion other people have about me is crucial? Do any of those ring a bell, even a tiny one? Just being honest with yourself here is the very first step toward building that awareness we're talking about. And all of this leads us to the final, and I think maybe the most important takeaway from our whole exploration today. It's really about a new way of understanding our place in the world. And here it is, plain and simple. You can't escape the herd. It's impossible. We're social animals. It's baked into our DNA. So the goal isn't to escape. The goal is to learn how to navigate it consciously, to be in the world, but not necessarily of it, So how do we actually do that? The source offers a really practical 3-part framework. First, epistemic humility. Basically, admitting that you don't know everything, recognizing the limits of your own knowledge. This makes you way less likely to get swept up by false certainty. Second, intentional community. Actively find and cultivate friendships and groups that actually value independent thought, not just blind agreement. And finally, contemplative practice. Just taking time, meditation, journaling, whatever works for you, to quietly observe the social forces that are trying to shape your own judgment. Which leaves us with this final, really beautiful question. This whole thing isn't about choosing one or the other, being the lone wolf or the mindless sheep. Real human flourishing, as the source suggests, is found in mastering this constant, dynamic dance between our need for connection and our drive for individual awareness. So the real question is, how do we master that dance in our own lives? That's the thought I'll leave you with.